Welcome to the NiteOwl Newsroom. This is a new segment I'm adding to my streams, courtesy of a longtime viewer, longtime chatter, NiteOwl. Unfortunately, I'm dumb and had myself muted for most of the first article we went over. NiteOwl could hear me because we were in Discord, but anyway, I'll chop it up a bit. I'm largely skipping the first article. I'll include it in the description if you want to read it.
I'll do like an elevator pitch for myself. So yeah, I'm from Sweden, where we have a lot of game studios, and ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a game dev. So studied tech at high school, then game dev at university. Did a little bit of marketing in game dev, and then had to go back to school. So right now I'm doing engine dev, and hopefully that'll get me into like a studio here in Sweden. Should be cool. But in the meanwhile, doing a lot of indie stuff as well. Yeah, so these are, just to give it a little intro on what this comes from. Like Mojo said, I'm very connected to the news stories because I have it just being pumped to my browser. So I've just been collecting a couple from last week. So this is last week's news, guys. Last week's news. But yeah, this first article is kind of interesting for us indie devs, mostly, I think. I don't think AAA does really care about it. So I'll just read the title. Data suggests that your game should cost between $20 and $40, and that it could be a key part of attracting player interest. So wish listing, of course, is like a huge sort of a gauge of like how well your game is going to do when you release it, especially for indie devs, because we don't really have the marketing budget. But this analytics firm, GameSight, did a study on the game industry and looked at certain points to see like how games can be predicted to do in the market. So this specific point is about hours to convert at different price points. I don't know, what do you think, Mojo? What do you pay for games? Like, what's a reasonable price for you to just throw some money at it?
And this is where I was saying some really important stuff, of course, but it's not recorded. Basically, I do like the $20 to $30 price point for indie games, and it does make sense to me that games seem more valuable at certain prices, but I'm just going to skip to the next article. Sorry. For sure.
Anyway, should we move on to the
next
story?
Let's move on to the next one. All right, let's read it. Report Discord confidentially files for IPO. Could the chat platform finally realize its desire to go public? Wow, Discord IPO, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So my thoughts
on
this, just quickly, is this what we want for Discord to be? Do we want Discord, as users of Discord, to be a publicly traded company?
Well, I mean, I don't know how common of an opinion mine is, but I do like the privately traded companies. I like, my big example is just Valve, right? I think Valve does an excellent job, and they are not public. And I think that gives them a lot more control in their space and also contributes to their value, or like quality, I should say. But that's just, that's me listening to the old angry software developers on the internet.
Of course it is. Well, that's kind of my perspective as well, which is why I'm like bringing it up, because I've seen so many platforms kind of get taken over by a publicly traded company and fall into decay. Like, I don't know what you used to use before Discord, but I used to use Skype, right?
Yep.
And Skype disappeared at the same time that Discord kind of showed up, which was around the time that it got, canceled by Microsoft, which is I think Microsoft is a publicly traded company, right?
Yes.
I assume.
Yeah.
Because it's huge. So yeah. I'm a little bit worried. Like, it's great for Discord that they can make some more money, because they have been losing money. Like, they have been almost the best at it until the whole AI boom. But they've been really good at losing money. So it's really good for them to get some money from investments. But I'm a little bit worried that it's going to kind of fall on us, that we're going to get a less interesting platform that gets filled with ads. Like, it's already coming in with all of the like Nitro things that you can get, and the in-service shop and whatever. But yeah, I'm a little torn on it, but it's going to be interesting to look at.
Is Discord's long-awaited IPO finally within reach?
So what I want to point out here is
gosh.
that, which I didn't know, that Discord has been operating under new leadership for the past year, um, since April 2025. And Seknini, who is now the Discord CEO, served as Activision Blizzard vice chairman, and King, which is now the same company, King Digital Entertainment president. Um, which again gives me like a little bit of heebie-jeebies. Not for like, Blizzard being a bad company and King being sort of a toxic company as well in certain cases, but more for the fact that there have been a lot of weird sort of monetization strategies coming out of Activision Blizzard and King, and now like them being a part of Microsoft kind of makes sense. I don't know much about Seknini. Have you ever heard anything about him?
No, I haven't.
But it is like, it's definitely an interesting move for Discord to hire someone that comes from like a very monetized company. We might see a bunch of like weird monetization strategies in Discord, and I don't know if that's what I want. I might have to go back to TeamSpeak.
TeamSpeak. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wonder
which
if
I don't
something will
want
come
to.
out.
TeamSpeak kind of sucks. Like the quality of voice is really good, and it's really easy to like set up a server with like the rules that you want, but it's kind of weird in my book. So we've got Discord filing for IPO and being under new management. I think there could be a lot of interesting stories coming out about Discord in the next year or so. And I guess we'll just have to see what Discord turns into.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm definitely not hopeful, but I don't know. I don't think that I'm gonna like let it ruin my day.
Exactly. That's kind of how I feel as well. I don't want this to just become something that I think about daily. I want it to just kind of play out. I'm sure we'll all be using Discord for a couple more years at least. All right,
Awesome.
any more thoughts about it, or do we want to move on to the next one? Because next one's pretty big.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna speak my mind because I am thinking
Yeah, go ahead.
about something, which is like, how hard is it to build a simple Discord? That's a dangerous thought that a developer has. Is like, how hard is it to build this? Like at the base, like at the core, you need a voice chat and probably a text chat, right?
Yeah,
I wonder how hard that
which
is.
is not difficult,
Yeah,
really.
I
There's a
wonder if
lot of frameworks
someone
for that.
would come out with a competitor if this got bad, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think what would be cool would be if there was like an open source tool to do it. The
Yeah,
problem is that the servers are the kind of core of the service.
that's true. That's true.
So even if you're hosting your own server, like it's not on your computer. It's not like you're hosting a Minecraft server from your desktop, right?
Oh, but
Uh,
I would do
but
it.
but you would. But so if you could host, if you would have a server at home, like a home lab, like you do, and you could host a ping server basically, just to check the users, like your own email server or whatever,
Hmm.
then that would definitely be something that I would transition to. And I think sort of in the I don't remember what it's called, but do you know about the Mastodon, kind of the
Yes.
Twitter
Yeah.
alternative? I don't remember what they call it, but there's a whole sphere of like social media that is like sort of run by the community rather than run by a corporation. And if we could have a Discord option kind of works like that, that'd be really cool. There's one called Matrix, but it's more text based, and I guess like not really an option for that. It's more like a chat service. So, I mean, if anyone listening has an interest in doing something like this, go ahead. Like, I don't know if I can help, but I'm definitely interested.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be interesting. I follow the handmade community, like the handmade network, and
Yeah.
they just did a conference in Sweden actually called the Better Software Conference, and it was just a bunch of people that are like fed up with modern software and say, let's use these low level languages to make good software that works and is fast and has good features and doesn't have shady monetization and stuff. And so we'll see if something comes of that.
I bet they talked a bit about Rust.
Well,
During the
what's funny
conference.
is that group of people actually dislikes Rust.
It is
which
really.
I think that's actually a mistake on their part, because I think that Rust is kind of the savior of C right now. But that's maybe just
You
a
got to
weird.
elaborate.
I got to elaborate. Well, so like Rust is a low level language, right? It's kind
Hmm.
of like its purpose is basically to replace C. But then somehow it became mainstream. It became a popular language,
Yeah.
whereas C and C++ are commonly hated or feared. And so Rust came out of the woodwork and is like normalizing low level development again. And so the C community has actually been reaping the rewards as well. I think people are less scared of C now and are like getting back into it and realizing its value. And so I actually think that Rust is kind of bringing it back, and people are actually starting to listen to C developers again.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like a fire between C and Rust developers. At least in the sphere where I'm in, which is like a lot on the Linux side.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
really
yeah.
interesting to watch. It's like a whole zoo. But I do find that because I haven't done much C++ dev. I haven't done any C dev really. I've only like watched videos about it and read articles. Uh, but coming back to C++ from having used a lot of Rust the last year,
Yeah.
it's so easy to use.
I
Like
know,
Rust
right?
is really complex. You have to really think through what you're doing, what the purpose is for each little bit of the code. In C++, you can like throw it together and fix it in post, right?
Yeah.
Rust, you have to really plan ahead, and
Uh-huh.
that makes it feel more difficult to use. It takes more time and more effort to get something simple working.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
so yeah, it's definitely a really interesting. It's really interesting that low-level languages are having like a little bit of a boost right now.
Yeah.
Um, so definitely looking forward to when Rust becomes such a common language that they start teaching it in universities and stuff like that. Uh, because then C and C++ can be sort of a um, something that you go to after you've done your school projects, and you can like learn some other like secret dark tricks of the programming kind. It's gonna feel like dark magic at that point.
Yeah, for sure. In your C++ course, are you using like new delete or using object oriented programming, stuff like that?
New delete?
Yeah, new.
Oh, you mean like yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like we use pointers and everything.
What, do you use smart
Um,
pointers?
a little bit. It's a little mixed right now. I think it's mostly because the course that we're doing is sort of the first real C++ course, and where we're using other libraries and stuff.
Okay.
So they're kind of mixing and matching a little bit, which is weird to get into. But yeah, there's some unique pointers and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
it's really weird though.
yep, that's what I learned in college. I learned all of that kind of C++, just the modern stuff. And now I'm like following the Handmade Hero stuff, and it's like don't use this modern stuff, just manage your memory yourself, and it's like kind of easier. I'm like kind of shocked. So anyway, just maybe try looking into it at some point. I know you're like really busy, but at some
I,
point.
I will I will use C if I actually make a game engine for myself because using Vulkan with C++ is garbage. It really sucks. It's just, but you're just basically using C
Yeah.
in C++, but there are options to use pure C++ or like true C++, but it just feels like they want you to use C. So, and you can always like do some parts in C and do other higher level things in C++. Kind of sounds weird to say that, but yeah,
No,
I will
it makes
see.
sense. It makes sense. Yeah. Next one.
So this is the big
Ubisoft.
one. I picked this one just because I am very like I don't know. I'm opinionated about this sort of stuff.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, so this is actually an update to the story of the unionization of Halifax Studios. So this happened in December, and which is like a huge thing for game studios to unionize, right?
Yeah.
Even in Sweden, most studios aren't union connected. You might have people be connected to like the general union. We have a lot of like unions in Sweden, but there's one that's like very general. But to have a whole studio unionize, and then, as the title says, get closed just a couple of weeks later, is a little bit suspicious, is what people are feeling. Ubisoft, just to give a little bit of background on them, they're doing a restructuring of their whole company. And again, Ubisoft is huge, right? They've got companies all over the world. Ubisoft Halifax is then in Halifax in Canada, and they are a mobile studio, and they've been focusing on like a Assassin's Creed mobile game. I'm not exactly sure what it's called. I guess it says somewhere in the article, but it seems like they've been doing pretty well. And then Ubisoft just has decided that a lot of studios are going to be laid off, at least partially, but Halifax completely got closed. And with their unionization, there's been a lot of like, oh, this is like unlawful behavior from Ubisoft. Can't really do this. Yeah, what do you have highlighted?
It is unlawful for a business to be closed because its workers chose to unionize.
I guess we're not really sure if that's what Ubisoft did, because they have been doing this restructuring. It might be that the studio was just an easy target because they're mobile and they did unionize. It's really, really weird behavior from Ubisoft to do. So there's, as far as I've understood, like a legal investigation on this right now. And this is definitely an article that you should read yourself if you're watching the stream, because the details are pretty complex. But what do you think about this? Just like on a surface level, with like the coincidence of them unionizing and them being laid off.
Let me think. So, I mean, obviously, like, I think that that's a little sus, but like, I feel like I hear about the big game studios laying people off a lot. I mean, and closing down internal studios. So I don't know if I'm like shocked. The coincidence is shocking, and it totally sucks too. Like, I'm not very happy about layoffs or closing down studios, but yeah, I personally don't jump to conclusions, but yeah, I mean, like, I definitely recognize a sus situation when it happens.
Of course. And that's sort of how I feel as well, is that it does kind of look like on a surface level like they did it because they unionized. I don't really think that's the case. I do think it's sort of a poor timing situation. And I do feel really bad for the Ubisoft Halifax developers and
Totally.
the rest of the team. I don't know exactly how. Yeah, 71 positions. So it's not a massive studio, but 71 people losing their job, like
that's a lot of people.
That sucks. And I do think it was like a mix of programmers and artists and marketers, and yeah, included about 60 producers, programmers, designers, artists, researchers, and testers. So everyone's affected, and it's it's really unfortunate. And yeah, that takes us on to like the next part, really, because this is a big story. So this is what I was talking about, with there being like some sort of like recognition from Ubisoft that, oh, this was not great, right? We didn't really plan this in a good way. So I guess you can see there as well on what they were making on that thumbnail. I'm not very interested in it, but I'm sure like there were people that were interested in this sort of thing. It's just some kind of like Assassin's Creed mobile game. I'm not really sure how it works.
Game. Okay.
Yeah.
Chibi I'm not really Assassin's Creed.
Exactly. Assassin's Creed Rebellion is what it was called.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and so because of this like unionization, they've put pressure on Ubisoft to like have a conversation about it, and they've actually agreed to have the conversation and to increase the, what do they call it? The compensation. That's what the word they use, which I think is really cool of them. Like, I am kind of iffy on Ubisoft because they make a lot of weird decisions about monetization and, having Assassin's Creed be a yearly game and kind of sucking the soul out of it. They do a little bit of weird things, but I do respect them for actually realizing that this was sort of a poor move, not really a great look for anyone. And there's an interesting thing that they mention here, is that a lot of people had relocated to Halifax and now feel sort of stuck there without a job.
Oh, shoot.
And yeah, and meanwhile, Ubisoft has a lot of other studios in Canada, and there should be an opportunity to move people to those other studios, which is, again, kind of like a weird take. If they're restructuring, that's obviously means that they're not doing too well. I've heard stories earlier during the year, or last year, they've had some really poor like net gains at the end of the year. I think it was 2024. They'd lost a couple of $1 million. So expecting them to just pop open positions at other studios is also a little weird. But yeah, it's a really complex situation. We'll see what happens to it. Yeah, they're not doing great. And I'm not really that surprised either. I don't know if I play one Ubisoft game, Trackmania,
Okay, yeah.
and it's not really. It's supposed to be a live service. Like you pay $30 for 3 years of access to all of the content, but it's not really that much content. It feels kind of lifeless, and that's sort of the vibe that I've gotten for most like Ubisoft games. That it's a little bit lifeless, which seems to be a pattern in AAA. I'm spitballing here. This
Yeah.
is all opinion. Like, don't sue me, Ubisoft. But it's a really weird situation for them, and it's really unfortunate that it kind of falls on the developers and the people working for Ubisoft have to be taken out of the company for them to survive. So yeah, a little unfortunate.
Let's see what games I've played.
I mean, I've played
Pilgrim.
Assassin's Creed in the past, right, and Far Cry,
Yeah.
but that's like old Ubisoft. I feel like.
They did the Rabbids. Rabbids is fun. Just Dance.
Yeah, Just Dance is huge,
Skull
right?
and Bones.
Oh, that one is an interesting sort of symptom of this whole thing, I think, because that game was in development hell for a long time, and then they said it's supposed to be the first quadruple A game, and it absolutely tanked. It was
that was the one.
terrible.
That was the one.
Yeah.
The quadruple A. That's so funny. That was hilarious.
And-
Not gonna lie.
Yeah. And then Star Wars Outlaws is also one of those games that
that one
didn't
seemed
really
weird.
come out and be good. So I don't know. I don't think we'll see Ubisoft survive for, okay, I'm gonna say for much longer, but I mean like for the next 20 years.
Gotcha.
Is maybe while we have Ubisoft. But I feel like they're on the decline, and this is sort of what I've been seeing around the game industry, is that these huge companies just don't really survive anymore in the same way that they used to. It's not really worth it to be this big.
Sorry, I'm going through this list. I think the only game I've ever played from Ubisoft is Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long time ago. But man, do they make a lot of games. No, I never played Far Cry.
Dude, you gotta play Far Cry 3.
Yeah?
It's one of the best games ever.
Really?
It's got one of the best antagonists in
Ooh,
game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next article.
Just to close off this story, because again, it's been going on a little bit. But no, let's move on to the massive thing, because that's sort of related. So this is sort of what I'm talking about. This affects me specifically, the massive thing, because when I used to study in Malmö, that was my site for game development studies, and a lot of us wanted to go to Massive for our learning in work studies, basically. I don't know if there's a better word for it. I don't know what you guys call it in
like internships.
America.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, kind of like an internship, but it's like more you basically just have a full job, and it's more of an advanced internship, I guess.
Yeah,
anyway.
in at least where I am, internships, it's like you're just working for them for less money. So
yeah, I mean, this program is like you don't get any money.
Oh, you don't get money?
because the opportunity of getting your foot into these studios is like so huge that most people absolutely don't care about the money, because we get paid from the government anyway for doing the studies. So yeah, either way, but this is sort of what I'm talking about, is why I'm kind of not thinking that it's the union thing that's related to the layoffs, because Ubisoft, even reaching as far as Sweden, which is one of the biggest game dev countries in the world. I think 20% of the games released last year was Swedish made.
That's crazy.
I think that's a crazy number as well.
Wasn't Core Keeper Swedish game?
I'm not sure. It's hard to keep track of all of them.
Yeah,
because there's so many like small studios as well.
What are some big ones? I want to know. What are some big ones that you know of that released last year from Sweden?
I don't know if Satisfactory released last year. They might have. But Coffee Stain, which are the developers of Satisfactory and the publishers of Valheim.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, Valheim is a Swedish-made game as well.
Nice.
So there's them, and then there's of course like Dice, which released Battlefield 6, and there's Massive, and they released a bunch of games. Avatar and the Star Wars game that we were talking about was also
Outlaws.
Massive. Yeah, exactly. So there are a lot of like there were a lot of releases from Sweden last year, and there were a lot of indie releases as well, which we'll get to because there's an article that mentions one
Oh,
of
okay.
them later.
Cool.
But yeah, so it's interesting to see that even in like such a strong game dev country as Sweden, which has a lot of like benefits for when you lose your job, we still get touched for it, and it still affects a lot of people's lives. So we don't have to go into detail on what happened to Massive because it's kind of a story that's been playing out for 24 months, so like 2 years. And but yeah, it's just interesting to see that it's not just Halifax, and that story is kind of just weird because of the timing, I think. It's just what I wanted to mention there. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Mojang has their headquarters in Stockholm,
Yeah.
which is really nice and cool. I will definitely apply to them, but
Oh, yeah.
we'll see. Probably not.
I applied a few years
They were,
ago.
yeah, but I'm also here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, I guess Notch is probably like the most successful indie dev of all time. Maybe, yeah, probably, right?
Like individual, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
the only other person that I could sort of put on the same list would be Miyamoto.
Miyamoto, there we go.
So he would probably be like up there when it comes to like being successful and influential. But that's like Nintendo.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No,
so
I definitely mean indie dev. I think he's the most successful indie dev of all time.
did you know, by the way, this is a total tangent, but one of the reasons that Nintendo got so huge in Europe and America was because of a Swedish guy
No way.
who went. Yeah, he went to Nintendo when they were just making toys, and they had the little Game and Watch or
Oh,
whatever it
yeah.
was,
Uh-huh.
and he introduced that to Europe, and it just exploded. And
Wow.
then Nintendo got so much revenue, and then Tetris came out, which
Uh-huh.
made it huge in America and the rest of the world as well. But what kind of kicked it off, and I'm not saying that it's all because of a Swedish guy going into Japan and colonizing them or whatever, but that was definitely like a huge link between Japan and Europe, and there's still a really big like Nintendo. What would you call it? Like an office in Sweden,
Oh,
in
cool.
Gothenburg, and it's definitely like probably influenced a lot of people in Sweden to make games. It's just that little thing of Nintendo getting huge in Sweden. So tangent over, but I just find that
No,
interesting.
that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely have started to notice that a lot of good software, a lot of good games come out of Sweden. So huge shout out to them. Shout out to
Yeah, well,
you.
we've got no sunlight for like 6 months of the year. Like you gotta do something, right?
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh.
Anyway,
Phasmophobia developer Kinetic Games launches indie publishing label. Okay. So, Kinetic Games boss Daniel Knight said he wants to provide the sort of support he needed at the beginning of his development journey. That's awesome. Okay. So, they're launching a new publishing label to provide indie studios with financial, legal, and marketing support. Kinetic Publishing has been formed with the aim of championing innovation within the indie space and intends to cultivate a small publishing slate to ensure it can provide tailored support to partner studios. Wow, okay.
yeah, I didn't know that they had that much money. You know, like I never really played Phasmophobia, but it was pretty big at one point,
It
right?
was massive at one point.
And I haven't really looked at the sales figures because if it's on Steam, right, the sales figures are kind of like not really true. They're speculative
Yeah.
based on like a lot of different numbers. But I think it's really cool that they're doing this step. It's the same sort of step that Coffee Stain took because they're the studio here in Sweden behind Goat Simulator and
Oh,
Satisfactory,
nice.
right?
Yeah.
And they used to be only be known for like the games that they made, but then they took on the Valheim team of Iron Gate, I think they're called, and that was so good for them. Like all of a sudden, Valheim could just be worked on without any like outside pressure of like having to pay your rent and having to pay for your food and family and all of that. So really cool of them to sort of take this step, I think. Are these current numbers?
These are current numbers.
Dude, that's
The
crazy.
24-hour peak is 20,000 players.
That is crazy.
That is crazy. This is a really successful game.
And it's honestly, I think Phasmophobia kind of looks like Dog.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, but it does have a lot of interesting mechanics, and I guess also because I did a little study on what friend slop is.
Mm-hmm.
Since I'm making a friend slop game now, and I'm academically educated, I have to do studies before I make real projects. And Phasmophobia was actually one of the games I took as like an example of what could be considered friend slop. This is more of like a horror friend slop, so it doesn't really fit my game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it could be sort of one of the sources of the kickoff of the friend slop trend, which I think is pretty cool.
Do you follow Chris Zukowski?
No, should
No.
I?
He's also writing articles. I actually haven't read the articles. I've watched podcasts where he talks about the articles, but he has a website called How to Market a Game. And he's been doing a deep dive into the friend slop genre. I think his articles are free.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Yeah. Maybe look into it because I need to look into it.
Well, that's the thing. Like when it comes to like marketing, that's why a lot of indie devs actually want a publisher, because it's, of course, it's cool if you can publish your own game, but it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
And marketing is often where a lot of like indie games kind of fall on, because you might have the talent of the artists and the designers and programmers, but having people see the game and kind of figuring out what the next step is for whatever you're doing is really tough if you don't have a team sort of focused on that. And that's where publishers can really, really help. But this is a really good resource. I think you should probably paste that in chat as well. How to market the game website, because marketing seems pretty easy if you just like look at it like, oh, I'll just release a trailer on YouTube. Yeah, but then what? It's a constant thing.
Yeah.
Same as like programming. Like you do one thing and then you have to do the next thing. You have to look at like, oh, how did this work? How did this help the game? Did it do anything that changed it for the worse? It's the same with marketing. There's no difference.
I listened to some podcasts with him and it was fun. He's pretty sharp. I think he like looks at Steam numbers and just like finds the like most important trends and then writes like a marketing article on it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he seems to have like a blog and a bunch of free stuff that you can access. So
yeah,
seems pretty cool.
One last thing is just that like I have not looked at publishers ever, but like I wonder what you think about this as someone who's studying game dev, because part of my philosophy is that a good game markets itself to some degree. Obviously, it's not 100%, but like to some degree, if your game is really good, it's going to market itself. What do you think about that?
I definitely think that there is something to be said for like the power of relationships between players. Like if you release a really good game and you tell your friends about it, they all buy the game, and it starts popping up like, oh, all my friends are playing this game on Steam. Like you see it like every night, then you're gonna get interested and maybe tell your games like friends that, yeah, should we try it? Like it's a 4-player game, it's not that expensive, let's do it. So there is something to be said about that, but a lot of sort of reaching outside of your intended audience is what marketing is good for, because you might have people that aren't super interested in if we take Phasmophobia for example, like a horror game, but you know, people might be interested in like an adventure game like Peak, which is sort of the same. It's sort of the same genre, but not really. But it's got the same vibe to it. So you can market to people that are sort of on the fence about starting games, but might find yours more palatable. and finding the balance in that, and in like how to target both your intended audience, of course, which is really important, but also sort of getting people that are on the fence. That's what I find the most difficult, and that's what I would really want a dedicated marketing team or publisher to do for me, because I know my players, but I don't know the people in between, basically. Is that reasonable? I don't
Yeah,
know.
for sure, for sure. It's just one of those things. Like, I have this opinion. I'm not gonna like stick to it because I'm scared. Right?
Mhm.
Like, my opinion is just that, like, if I make a really good game, it's gonna be good no matter what. But at the same
It's true.
time, I'm gonna cover all my bases. I'm gonna market and everything. So,
Yeah, a
and
lot of
maybe
it
even like
has to do with luck as
Kickstarter,
well.
stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, Kickstarter is interesting too, because it's like its own audience.
Yeah.
Like, I used to be a little bit on Kickstarter when I did have a little bit more funds to my name. And so I bought into a couple of games, and a few of them really turned out well. The other ones didn't really turn out well, sort of a gamble. But it's definitely a platform for some studios, but you do have to like on Kickstarter you really do have to market, because there is no sort of,
There's no
I don't know.
discovery.
It's just different. Yeah, there's no real discovery. If there is discovery, you're already in that sphere, basically.
Okay.
It's sort of the same as, people who hunt Steam for new games to wishlist, which
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, but most people aren't. Most people just look at what's popular and kind of buy from that. So, and again, a lot of it has to do with luck. You might make the best game ever, but it might not be discovered until many, many years later, or become financially viable until many years later. Dwarf
Yeah.
Fortress is a good example of that. They had a really strong release for free on their website, which is when in like ASCII, so you couldn't even really see what was going on. It's really clunky to play. And then they formed like a little bit of a bigger studio. They hired artists and stuff like that, and then they released on Steam, and they made like $1 million overnight, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of it has to do with timing, and it's really complex. But yeah, so
Wasn't Factorio one of those where it was like it was on the Steam store for even like a couple years before it became really popular?
that might be true. I'm not really sure,
Yeah, I'm not
but
sure either. I know there's a couple of those games where like
but that's
they
that's
were
definitely one of those games that kind of fit in with what you're talking about, because they don't really do any marketing.
yeah.
Like, all of their marketing has come from YouTubers playing the game and people being
Yeah.
interested in it, and the game just being solid
Mm-hmm.
all the way through. It's like, okay, you said you hadn't played it yet, right?
I haven't. No, I need
Yeah.
to.
So what I found most striking about it is that it's not buggy. It's really polished. Like, they spend a lot of time on making sure that the rules of the game are super strict and well developed, and that in its own, you know, it just makes the game so enjoyable, because you know what you're gonna get out of it. So there are definitely those pearls that are just perfect games. Are perfect. I'm exaggerating, but
Yeah, all
the,
good.
the games that do market themselves, but it's really, really difficult and takes a long time to get to that point.
Yeah,
So I
fair enough.
wouldn't bet on it.
Oh, true, true. Yeah, I think that yeah, it's definitely like a one percenter type game that can do that.
Hmm.
I was
I
gonna
really think
say,
it's cool when it
like I
happens.
think a lot of people, a lot of devs, including myself, really want to market on like YouTube and Twitch, right?
Hmm.
Like streaming, making your game or whatever, like doing devlogs and stuff. I've come to realize that that's also not super viable because what happens is the people who watch your videos end up being game devs themselves.
Yeah.
And so they're not like, yeah, they do like playing games, but like for the most part, they're just kind of interested in seeing how you do your thing while also working on selling their thing. And so it's not like a super big marketing tool. However, that being said, Megabonk dude, Vedinad, who might be Danny Dev, still
Who
not
might
confirmed,
be?
who might be. It's way more fun to think he is Danny Dev for some reason. He marketed on YouTube and that was excellent. So I think that there's more to explore in YouTube, and I don't think it's devlogs. I think it's fun to make devlogs, but I don't think that's a way to market your game. I think that's more just a way to market your YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're spot on with the fact that it's mostly game devs watching game devs.
Yeah.
But I think that's cool in its own sort of way.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be for the players.
Exactly.
Like the networking that we get from just being interested in making games is really important as well, because that could lead to something really cool in the future too. And if you don't have that sort of group around you, you don't go to like the game dev meetups in your area, having the opportunity to just chat with other people that are interested in developing games while you're doing it yourself, that's really cool in itself. But it's not necessarily going to lead to sales. I think you're completely right in that.
Last
Final
one?
topic then, which I'm going to let you take this one as well.
Okay. Hollow Knight Silksong is the Steam Awards 2025 Game of the Year. Steam users have spoken. The Team Cherry's Hollow Knight Silksong has been crowned Game of the Year at the Steam Game Awards. According to a Valve spokesperson, these results came after players submitted a total of 43.8 million votes across 11 categories. The categories included a number of familiar accolades, such as the Outstanding Visual Style Award, which went to Neobard's Entertainment and Konami's Silent Hill F. And a few eccentric entries like the Best Game You Suck At award. Silksong scooped up that prize as well, making it the only repeat winner in this year's slate of honorees. Awesome. Yeah, I know that the Silksong community was pretty upset about the video game awards. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Video game awards?
Yeah, I wasn't very happy about them either.
Oh, no.
I think so.
Claire Obscure won Best Soundtrack. Oh, okay, cool. It practically swept the 2025 Game Awards, making its more subdued trophy haul here a small surprise. Yeah.
And I have a hot take on this whole Claire Obscure thing.
Okay, let's hear it.
I played the game. I did not think it was that good.
Really?
Yeah. I look, I'm not super into that type of game because it's sort of like the old Final Fantasies, where you run into a guy and then the game stops and then you do a little bit of fighting and then you get XP and then you move on and you do that. But I thought the combat system was kind of poorly designed. Like, okay, I sound like I'm a hater right now, but I just didn't enjoy it, is what I'm saying. And I don't really understand, because the Game Awards is weird because it's both, the public vote and the jury. And the jury is like a majority of the final vote. So I'm not gonna say there's a conspiracy or whatever, but I feel like it's not really deserved to take that many prizes. But I do think that Silksong definitely deserves Game of the Year on Steam and the Best Game I Suck At award.
Totally.
So I feel like the Steam Awards was a little bit more balanced, where the people actually got to vote, because the players voted.
Yeah.
The people that played the games. And I'm not going to say that I know exactly what the jury were thinking in the Game Awards, but I feel like this is more representative of what the players think, basically.
Yeah, cool. I do like RPG. What are they called? Turn-based RPGs. But I mean, I guess I only play Pokemon. My game is going to be heavily inspired by Pokemon and Earthbound. And so I do like turn-based RPGs, but I have not played Claire Obscure, so I cannot give a review on that yet. But I might try it out. I don't know. I'm still stuck on Silksong. I suck at Silksong, so I've got a long ways to go on that.
You think you will finish it this year?
Oh yeah. I'll hopefully I'll finish it soonish. I don't know. I'm not gonna do end game stuff. I don't think. I'm probably just gonna beat final boss and then move on.
But yeah, so I do want to point out the rest of this list, because these are all the winners from the awards.
Yeah.
And I want to point out Peak on the Better with Friends.
Yeah.
Peak is such a good game. I've only played it a couple of hours, but those hours were so much fun with my friends. definitely, if you haven't out there in chat, you guys that are watching, if you haven't played Peak, like get a group of friends together and just try it out. It's not that expensive and it's got a lot like how you have it as well.
Gonna add it to my want to play game. I have
But
it.
it's
I haven't
really,
played
really
it.
Yeah, just like if you haven't played it, get a group of friends together and just do it because it's not long, like explicitly, but it's kind of difficult when you start, and then it just gets easier when your sort of relationship builds with your friends, and everyone learns the controls at the same time. So it feels really rewarding when you get to the next fireplace or whatever. Definitely happy that they got an award here. And
That's
then
awesome.
the other one, which is also a friend swap game that I want to point out, is the Sit Back and Relax award, which I did not do when I played that game. RV There Yet, which is a Swedish-made game again,
Oh, really?
where you drive an RV with your friends, and it's really hard because you can barely look over the steering wheel, but you get to drink beer and smoke cigarettes, and it's really silly. Do you see any game here that looks especially interesting that you would play?
I've played
From
Hades
this list?
2. That was a really fun
Yeah.
game. Baldur's Gate has been on my wish list forever. I should probably pull the trigger on that.
It's awesome.
And then Arc Raiders. I feel really bad that I didn't get into Arc Raiders
Why?
because I just have a ton of friends that played it, and
Oh, yeah.
and they're like the friends that I played Helldivers 2 with, and
I see.
I was like, oh man, I was on a big trip when it came out, and so I like totally missed like the first 2 weeks where everyone was getting like super hype on it. But I think people still play it, so maybe I should still hop on that train.
Yeah, I think people are still enjoying it. Absolutely.
All right.
Well,
Well, we
anyway,
did it. We made it through the articles.
yeah, that's 1 week of, well, some of the news. There was a lot more news, but a lot of it was just really boring. So this was all of the interesting news that I found.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, then definitely check out my stream and check out my game. It's called Droppy Ball. It's $1 on Steam and free on the Play Store. Please buy my game.